20 years ago, Hollywood released two big-budget movies about giant asteroids that threatened to wipe out all life on Earth. One of these films was praised for its scientific accuracy, and the other one was Michael Bay's Armageddon. Yes, Deep Impact may have beaten it to theaters by a few months, but 2 decades later, the one we're still talking about is Armageddon. Why? Because out of all of Michael Bay's films, this one is by far the Bay-iest. The Bay, the most Bay. Salt Bay. I don't know.
Why don't we just send up 150 nuclear warheads and blast that rock apart?
July 1st marks the 20th anniversary of Armageddon's theatrical release, which turned out to be one of the most successful films of 1998. We're talking number 2 domestically and number 1 at the worldwide box office with over $550 million. Bruce Willis headlined a cast that included Ben Affleck, Steve Buscemi, Owen Wilson, and the late Michael Clarke Duncan. This is a very good group of actors. As a group of oil drillers who were drafted by NASA to fly a nuclear device to the extinction-level asteroid and detonate it. But first, they had to be trained to be astronauts. Cue the montage.
All right, Ben, let's go. Step it up.
Ben Affleck would later say that he asked Bay during filming if it wouldn't be easier to just train astronauts to be oil drillers. I mean, wouldn't that be simpler than giving Willis's crew a crash course in space camp? Yes, it would have been easier, but less fun. And Bay's response was to tell Affleck to shut up, except that he used more colorful language. Bruce Willis played Harry S. Stamper, the leader of this team, and the father of Grace Stamper, played by Liv Tyler in one of her earliest film roles. After Tyler was cast, her real father, Steven Tyler, and his band Aerosmith, ever heard of it, were recruited to perform the movie's signature song, I Don't Wanna Miss a Thing. I don't wanna close my eyes. I could keep going, but I won't for you. You know how it goes.
I don't wanna fall asleep 'cause I miss you, baby.
Like any blockbuster from the 90s, Armageddon had a loosely held together romantic subplot. For this film, it was the love story between Ben Affleck's AJ and Grace. Naturally, Harry's response to his daughter's new lover was to immediately grab a shotgun, because Bay.
Who wouldn't be mad?
But he's gonna shoot you.
No, he's not.
Now, we all give Michael Bay a lot of flack for his camera movements and edits that could cause motion sickness, and also his preference for, shall we say, heightened reality. But there are some really effective human touches in Armageddon. For example, Bay had the actors write down the demands that Harry and his crew used to blackmail NASA.
Oscar here has got some outstanding parking tickets and wants them wiped off his record.
It's a little greedy in the face of worldwide devastation, but come on, I would do the same thing, right? Some of the film's best sequences followed the team through their astronaut training on Earth. NASA let Bay shoot some of those scenes in their real facilities, including the neutral buoyancy lab where astronauts prepare for a weightless environment inside a 40-foot deep pool. 2 real spacesuits were used in the movie, and sequences were also filmed on a launch pad with a working space shuttle. That's insane. The reason that NASA was so generous is that Armageddon was pitched to them as a potential recruitment tool, just like Top Gun had been a decade earlier. Whether or not Armageddon actually inspired people to join NASA may be up for debate, but the agency still finds it to be a useful film. The agency reportedly screens Armageddon during its management training program, tasking trainees to find as many errors as possible, which, come on, that is pretty funny for NASA, or for anyone. And look, it's not as if Bay and his collaborators didn't know that Armageddon was scientifically inaccurate, they just preferred to go with anything they deemed to be entertaining, even if it flew in the face of real science. It's almost as if Bay doesn't want anyone to doze off while watching the movie. He doesn't want you to fall asleep cause you'd miss his movie. I'm sorry, I set it up and then I knocked it down. But let's get right to the task at hand, blowing up a giant asteroid the size of Texas. Even before the big rock arrived, the smaller chunks tore apart a few of the world's greatest cities. Who needs a Tetris movie when we've got Armageddon? Although compared to Bay's Transformers movies, the destruction of cities in this film is relatively tame. Relatively. Even Bay has admitted that one of the main faults with Armageddon is it makes people believe that there's actually a workable plan in place to prevent this from really happening. Because there is not. There is no plan for this. If an asteroid the size of that ever comes directly toward Earth, we're going to die, all right? We're gonna die, and not quick, depending on where you are. It will be really bad. But because we're on the subject, it turns out that it has at least been discussed. According to a physics paper published in 2011, it would require a thermonuclear device a billion times stronger than the biggest H-bomb that was ever detonated on Earth. So theoretically, yeah, a bomb could be used to split apart an asteroid and divert the course of both pieces away from the planet. It would take roughly 80 trillion terajoules of energy, which is far less powerful than the bomb used in the film. So let's get on that science, okay? Let's start spitballing some ideas, because that's not how I want to go. Anyway, the story of Armageddon all came down to Harry, but of course it did. Because a rule of thumb for ensemble summer disaster movies, whoever has the biggest photo on the poster is almost always the one to save us. Harry elected to stay behind and detonate the bomb while finally giving AJ his blessing to date Grace. Their goodbye scene still gets us a little choked up.
Always thought of you as a son. Always.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Yeah. I don't wanna torture you. Sorry, I don't know. Armageddon is so vague, there's really only one man who could have made it, but I don't know who can say for sure, because almost every successful movie gets a remake or a sequel somewhere down the line. So a few years from now, when Armageddon Squared is facing down deeper impact at the box office, you can say you heard it here first. For now though, Armageddon remains peak 90s disaster film that stands apart from the rest, and 20 years later is still a lot of fun to watch. Let us know in the comments your favorite part of Armageddon, and more importantly, if you can resist the urge to sing along to I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, because I clearly can't.
Don't wanna miss a